Is that piece of dark chocolate you're eating for health benefits actually loading you up with toxic heavy metals? Serious question. Before you take another bite of that guilt-free snack, you need to hear this because the industry is betting huge money that you won't ask that question. We've all heard the buzz. Dark chocolate is the superfood that protects your heart and fights off aging with antioxidants. But recent independent lab testing from sources like Consumer Reports has confirmed a darker truth. They tested 28 popular dark chocolate bars, and every single one, from big names sitting on the shelf at Walmart and Kroger to pricey organic options, contained quantifiable amounts of lead and cadmium. For 23 of those 28 bars, just eating 1 ounce a day would put an adult over the daily maximum limit for at least one of these metals. This is stuff you use every single day, and for many people it's actively doing more harm than good. But wait, don't throw your whole stash in the trash just yet. This is an exposé, not a scare tactic. In this video, we are going to break down the entire mess and give you the real story that the candy companies are terrified you'll figure out. I'm going to show you exactly how these toxic metals get into the chocolate in the first place. Hint, it's not an accident. I'll walk you through the 5 industrial shortcuts and sneaky label tricks that the major brands use to turn actual cocoa into a cheap, sugary, metal-filled ghost of its former self. After that, we're doing a brutal, brand-by-brand takedown of 15 bad bars you should stop buying immediately, citing the actual lab data. And finally, I'll show you the 3 good brands you should switch to, the ones that are actually testing low for metals and made with real, honest ingredients. In fact, the absolute best, cleanest bar I found will be revealed at the very end, and I promise it's not from the brand you expect. Okay, educational foundation time. Let's understand what we're actually dealing with here before we start naming names. How does a plant absorb toxic metals? Well, cadmium is an element that's naturally in the soil, particularly in volcanic regions or specific mineral zones. The cocoa tree absorbs it through its roots, and it gets locked inside the cocoa bean itself, so you can't just wash it off. Lead is different. Lead is largely a processing problem. It lands on the outside of the bean after it's harvested. In many regions, the wet cocoa beans are left to dry on the bare ground, where lead-contaminated dust from nearby roads or pollution settles onto their sticky surfaces. Think of it like drying your clean laundry on a dirty highway. It's going to pick some things up. The chocolate industry, however, doesn't advertise this. Their job isn't to protect you. Their job is to sell you a fantasy. Real, well-made chocolate is incredibly complex and expensive to produce. The natural fat from the bean, cocoa butter, is what makes chocolate melt at body temperature, giving it that creamy texture. It also helps the chocolate move smoothly through the factory. But cocoa butter is expensive. The modern industrial candy industry hates expensive, so they use chemistry to fight it. Every fact I'm about to tell you is a mini revelation. For example, some products on your shelf have quietly replaced expensive cocoa butter with cheap palm oil, using a synthetic emulsifier to hold it all together. Some are more sugar than actual cocoa. The industry has even engineered a way to use less and less actual cocoa while still making the product look the same on the shelf, relying on nostalgia to stop you from checking the recipe. They are hollowing out the very soul of the product, and that hollow space is where the metals hide. They aren't selling you food. They're selling you a price point wrapped in a marketing lie, and that's what we're going to expose today. Let's dive straight into the Hall of Shame and look at the brands that are cutting corners, starting with the least shocking offenses and moving to the biggest household names that are utterly betraying your trust. We begin with a massive industry staple, Hershey's milk chocolate. Owned by the Hershey Company, this iconic American bar has positioned itself for over a century as the gold standard of simple, wholesome childhood joy. Everyone knows the silver lettering, and everyone trusts it. But here is the main accusation. Under United States labeling laws, a product can only be called milk chocolate if it contains at least 10% chocolate liquor, which is the pure ground cocoa bean. If a company drops below that line to save money, they legally cannot use that term. While the classic bar still clings to the legal minimum, look closer at Hershey's related products like Rolo, Almond Joy, and Mr. Goodbar. A major journalistic investigation tracked how these recipes were quietly reformulated over the years, stripping away actual cocoa and replacing it with cheap vegetable fats. The sensory reality of this cost-cutting is impossible to ignore once you notice it. Instead of melting cleanly on your tongue, it feels slightly waxy, leaving a greasy film that sticks to the roof of your mouth. It mimics chocolate, but it's engineered to survive a hot car better than a high-quality treat ever could. At around $1 to $2 a bar, it seems like a bargain, But when you calculate the cost per ounce of actual cocoa versus the amount of cheap sugar and palm kernel oil you are buying, it's an absolute scam. The final verdict zinger is simple. Hershey has turned a historic recipe into a brown-colored sugar brick that relies on your childhood memories to stay relevant, moving up the ladder of corporate trickery. Let's talk about the synthetic shortcuts hiding behind the label of Hershey's Special Dark. People buy this thinking they are making a sophisticated, healthy choice. But if you flip that bar over and read the ingredients list at Target or Kroger, you will find a strange string of letters near the bottom, PGPR. That stands for polyglycerol polyricinoleate. Its entire job in food science is to act as a synthetic emulsifier. Why does a multi-billion-dollar corporation need a synthetic helper? Because actual cocoa butter is what naturally gives chocolate its liquid flow during manufacturing, allowing it to move smoothly through factory molds. But cocoa butter is a premium commodity. By tossing in a tiny, legally compliant amount of PGPR, the manufacturer can pull out the costly cocoa butter and still keep the factory machines happy. As expert food scientists have noted, the presence of PGPR is the ultimate corporate fingerprint of cost-cutting. It's a reliable warning sign that you are holding a bar engineered down to a price point rather than built for quality. You are paying a premium for a dark experience, but you're getting a synthetic shortcut instead. If you already feel like checking your own pantry shelf right now, smash that subscribe button. Because the data gets significantly harsher from here, let's cross over to the grocery store baking aisle and look at Baker's premium semi-sweet baking chocolate bars, owned by Kraft Heinz. Generations of American homebakers have trusted this brand for their holiday cookies and brownies. But when the independent laboratory at the Clean Label Project ran their heavy metal screening, the numbers were deeply unsettling. They found that Baker's dark baking varieties frequently carried elevated levels of lead. This is a severe processing and handling issue that traces back to how the raw commodity beans are dried in the open air, absorbing dirt and dust. When you chop up this chocolate for your family's baked goods, you aren't just adding sweetness. You are unknowingly adding measurable trace amounts of a heavy metal that accumulates in the human body over time. It sells for $3 to $4 a box at Walmart, which feels normal, but the real cost is the complete lack of transparency regarding where these anonymous beans were sourced. Baker's acts as a classic filler bar in your pantry, relying on its historical brand equity while offering zero data to consumers who want to keep their kids safe from environmental toxins. It is a premium labeled product delivering a heavy metal surprise under the guise of family tradition. Now let's talk about the massive health halo trap, Green & Black's organic dark chocolate. Owned by Mondelez International, this brand screams premium virtue. The wrapper is elegant, and it boasts organic and fair trade certifications that practically shout health food from the shelves of Whole Foods and Safeway. Shoppers willingly pay $4 to $5 a bar because they believe the organic seal protects them from industrial nastiness. But here is the shocker. A major 2024 study from George Washington University analyzed over 70 cocoa products in the U.S. and explicitly concluded that organic dark chocolates frequently carry higher concentrations of heavy metals than conventional ones. Why? Because organic farming standards strictly regulate synthetic pesticides, but they do absolutely nothing to alter the naturally occurring cadmium in the soil or the lead dust that settles on the beans during open-air drying. When Consumer Reports did their comprehensive lab testing, Green & Black's 70% dark chocolate registered a lead content that exceeded California's strict safety thresholds by a wide margin. It tastes rich, bitter, and complex, which makes you think it's pure medicine. But that intense cocoa concentration is exactly what delivers the highest dose of heavy metals. The organic label is completely honest about how the trees were grown, but it is an absolute smokescreen regarding what those trees sucked up from the ground. It's a luxury-priced bar that sells you peace of mind while delivering a laboratory nightmare. Finally, we arrive at the most trusted, most popular premium chocolate name in the United States, Lindt Excellence. Walk into any CVS, Walgreens, or upscale grocery store, and you will see the immaculate gold packaging of Lindt Excellence 85% cocoa. It is the ultimate everyday luxury. People eat a square of this every single evening like it's a doctor-approved supplement. But in the landmark Consumer Reports laboratory investigation, Lindt Excellence 85% dark chocolate was exposed as one of the worst offenders for lead contamination, measuring well over double the maximum safe daily limit established by California's public health experts. Because cadmium and lead ride exclusively on the cocoa solids, The ultra-dark bars that consumers buy specifically for health benefits are ironically the ones that pack the heaviest toxic punch. The sensory experience is deeply deceptive. It has a smooth texture and an intense flavor masked by synthetic vanillin, a cheap, lab-made substitute for real vanilla used to smooth out the flat notes of mass-market cocoa beans. Lindt uses its historic Swiss heritage to command a premium price, but the actual laboratory data shows they are sourcing anonymous, pooled commodity cocoa without adequate heavy metal mitigation. It is the ultimate industry betrayal. The bar marketed as the absolute healthiest option on the American shelf is the exact one failing the most basic safety tests. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. Let's flip the script completely and look at the brands that are getting it right, proving that you do not have to give up chocolate to stay safe. These are the companies that respect your intelligence, invest in clean supply chains, and refuse to hide behind corporate doublespeak. You can find these options right on American shelves, from mainstream supermarkets to health food stores, and they prove that real, delicious. Low-metal chocolate is entirely possible. We start with the absolute king of mainstream availability and safety, Ghirardelli Intense Dark. Owned by Lindt and Springley, but operated as an independent American subsidiary based in California, Ghirardelli has managed to do what its parent company couldn't. When Consumer Reports dropped their bombshell laboratory data, Ghirardelli Intense Dark 86% cacao and their Twilight Delight 72% cacao stood out as absolute champions. They were among the very few mainstream bars that measured comfortably below California's strict safety limits for both lead and cadmium. Why did they win? Because Ghirardelli controls its sourcing, deliberately choosing beans from specific West African regions where the soil chemistry is naturally low in cadmium, and enforcing strict processing hygiene to prevent lead dust from landing on the drying beans. Sensory-wise, it is an absolute dream. It breaks with a sharp, clean snap, melts instantly on the tongue without a hint of that waxy vegetable oil texture, and has a rich, deep cocoa punch that isn't masked by synthetic flavorings. At around $3 to $4 a bar at Walmart, Target, or your local Kroger, it costs pennies more than the toxic filler bars, making it the most cost-effective, accessible, and scientifically validated clean chocolate you can buy. It is the ultimate proof that a major brand can scale production safely if they actually give a damn about what goes into the wrapper. Next up, let's look at an option for the stone-ground purists who want zero industrial junk. Tazza Chocolate Organic Deliciously Dark. Based right here in the US, Tazza operates on a direct trade model, bypassing the anonymous commodity river entirely. They build relationships with specific farming cooperatives, paying them above fair trade prices to ensure the beans are handled meticulously. In the independent lab testing, Tazza's 70% dark variety sailed through with flying colors, registering well below the safety thresholds for both toxic metals. Tazza's philosophy is all about minimal processing. They use traditional Mexican stone mills to grind the cacao, which leaves the texture uniquely rustic, bold, and slightly gritty. When you eat it, it feels substantial and intensely chocolate-forward, a complete universe away from the smooth, synthetic, corn syrup-laden junk lining the checkout aisles. It retails for about $5 a bar at Whole Foods or via online grocery sites. The only downside is that unique, rustic texture. If you are looking for a silky smooth European-style melt, the stone-ground grit might surprise you at first. But what you are paying for is absolute structural integrity. Just organic cacao and organic cane sugar. No PGPR, no vegetable fats, and zero hidden contaminants. And finally, we arrive at the absolute gold standard of clean chocolate. The brand that took the #1 slot in the safety evaluations, Massed Organic Dark Chocolate. This American artisan brand, widely available at boutique grocers, Target, and high-end markets, completely flipped the script on the industry. In the Consumer Reports evaluation, Massed 80% Organic Dark Chocolate achieved the single lowest lead result in the entire testing panel, while remaining safely under the limit for cadmium. Massed achieves this by treating chocolate making like fine winemaking. They trace every single batch of beans back to the exact estate or cooperative where it was grown, ensuring that the wet cacao is dried on clean, raised bamboo racks far away from dusty roads or industrial pollution. The sensory experience is peak luxury. It is velvet smooth, rich, naturally fruity, and perfectly balanced. Now, let's be entirely honest about the downside. It is expensive. A bar will run you around $7 to $8. That is a steep markup compared to a standard candy bar, and it is definitely a premium splurge meant for savoring a couple of squares at a time rather than mindlessly inhaling it in front of the TV. But that price reflects an uncompromised supply chain, meticulous safety testing, and premium, real ingredients. It is an investment in your health and your palate, proving that when a company stops hiding its beans, the results are nothing short of spectacular. To help you navigate this absolute minefield the next time you walk down the candy aisle at Target or Safeway, write these rules down or take a screenshot, because this is how you protect yourself. Rule number 1. Look for the word chocolate and reject anything labeled chocolatey, chocolate candy, or chocolate flavored, which are the legal admissions that the recipe was cut to save money. Rule number 2. Make sure cocoa or cocoa butter is the very first ingredient listed on the back, because ingredients are listed by weight, and if sugar or palm kernel oil comes first, you are buying a candy brick, not real chocolate. Rule number 3. Scan the fine print for cost-cutting fingerprints like PGPR or synthetic vanillin, because their presence means the manufacturer engineered the bar down to a rock-bottom price point. Rule number 4. Remember that organic or fair trade labels do not protect you from heavy metals, as they regulate synthetic pesticides but do absolutely nothing about the cadmium in the soil or the lead dust in the air. Rule number 5. Treat high-percentage dark chocolate as a luxury to be savored in small amounts rather than medicine to be inhaled daily, because the higher the cocoa solid content, the higher the concentration of heavy metals. Rule number 6. Favor brands that explicitly mention their specific origin country or estate, because traceability is the only way a company can guarantee they are sourcing from low-cadmium soils and utilizing clean, raised drying racks. Kauka, when you look at the entire landscape of the modern candy industry, it becomes incredibly clear that the system is fundamentally engineered to capitalize on your nostalgia while hollowing out the actual product. Multinational corporations are counting on the fact that you will reach for the same familiar wrapper you've loved since childhood without ever turning it over to see that the cocoa butter was quietly swapped for cheap vegetable fats. But by shifting your thinking from a blind consumer to an active investigator, you take back the only power that actually protects you, which is your informed attention. You stop being a passive victim of clever marketing and start demanding structural honesty from the food on your grocery shelves. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today to unmask what's really going on behind the factory doors. If you found this investigation eye-opening, please share this video with a friend or family member who eats dark chocolate every single day thinking it's a health supplement, because they deserve to know the truth too. Let me know down in the comments. Which of these mass market or premium brands is sitting in your pantry right now, and are you going to throw it out? If you want to keep digging into the hidden secrets of the supermarket, make sure to watch our related exposé on how the multi-billion-dollar protein powder industry is hiding the exact same toxic heavy metals in their plant-based blends. Turn the wrapper over, read the small print they hoped you would completely skip, and decide for yourself what has actually earned the right to be called real food.